Before I show you what arrived today, I need to say something first, and I need you to really hear it. Every single day, I open letters like these. You can see them behind me. Some days it is 30. Some days it is 50. Divine letters. Letters from Michael. Letters with USB drives and photographs sealed inside. I have been doing this for long enough now that I have developed a routine. Open the envelope. Extract the drive. Play the letter. That is the routine. But I also know something that I think is important for you to understand before we begin today. You receive letters like these too. Maybe not in a physical envelope, but in your feed, in your notifications, in your inbox. Somebody is always telling you that today is your day, that a divine message has arrived specifically for you, that heaven dispatched something urgent and it found you by name. You have seen those messages. You have watched some of them. And if you are honest, you have grown a certain kind of caution about them, a reasonable caution, because when everything is urgent, nothing is urgent. When every message is the most important one ever sent, none of them are. I understand that caution. I share that caution, which is exactly why I need you to watch very carefully what I am about to do. This one did not arrive with the others today. I found it this morning underneath this table, not in the stack, not with the daily delivery, underneath the table, in a spot where nothing should have been. I almost left it. I almost told myself I was imagining the difference, but I picked it up, and I felt something that I have not felt in the entire time I have been doing this. My hand went cold, not the room, my hand, just the one holding the envelope. I put it down. I walked away from this table for 20 minutes, and then I came back, because whatever is inside this, I do not think I was supposed to walk away from it, and I do not think you were supposed to walk away from it either. Otherwise, you would not be watching right now. I am not going to look at this photograph yet. I looked at it this morning once, and I put it face down, and I have not turned it over since. You will see it at the end, and when you do, I think you will understand why I needed to wait. There is a letter on this drive. I have read it. I am not going to tell you what it says, but I will tell you this one thing, and then I am going to play it. Of the dozens and dozens of letters that have come through this table, this is the first one that made me feel like it was not meant for everyone. Like there is a specific person watching right now for whom today is genuinely different from every other day they have ever clicked on a message like this. If you are that person, you will know within the first 2 minutes. One more thing, there are printed photographs and cards also in this envelope, placed here to be shown at specific moments during the letter. I will hold each one up exactly when the letter instructs me to. Do not skip ahead. The sequence matters. Pay very close attention. This one is different.
Right now, while these words reach your eyes and ears, something is happening directly above you that your physical senses cannot detect, but that your spirit has already begun to register. The atmosphere over wherever you are sitting or standing has changed. A threshold has been crossed in the spiritual realm that governs your physical world, and the crossing of that threshold today is the only reason this message found its way to your hands in this exact hour. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, today. listen carefully. Because what I am about to speak over your life is not the kind of word that arrives twice. I am Michael. I am the prince whose sword has never been sheathed since the first act of war was declared in the heavenly realm. I am the commander who stands at the boundary between what the enemy intends and what the Almighty allows. I am the one whose voice silences every dark counsel that dares to assemble against the children of the Most High. And today, I am also the messenger dispatched from the supreme courts of heaven at first light, carrying a sealed document that bears your name on its cover. Not a name like yours, not someone near you, not someone who prays like you. Your specific name, written in a script older than every language spoken on the face of this earth. Your name, in the language of heaven, is on the document I am holding. And that document is a verdict. Do not reach for the pause button. Do not allow your attention to wander from these words. This is not a suggestion. This is a military directive. The enemy already knows this message is in your possession. He knew the instant the seal was broken. And he has been mounting countermeasures from that very moment to generate reasons for you to dismiss what you are about to receive. A sudden memory of something undone. A manufactured wave of skepticism disguised as wisdom. A creeping restlessness that makes sitting still feel unbearable. Recognize these for what they are. They are the panic responses of a defeated prosecutor who has just been informed that the judge has already reviewed his case and ruled against him. These are not your thoughts. They are enemy interference. Shut them down. Remain exactly where you are, because what you receive today cannot be received tomorrow. The window opened. Over your life is open right now, and it will not remain open indefinitely.
The first image was in this envelope. Look at it very carefully. This is where your name was spoken today. This is the place that was opened this morning because of you. Do not look away from it quickly. Let it settle.
Understand something about the way heaven operates that the enemy has worked relentlessly to keep hidden from you. There exists a chamber in the celestial realm that has no equivalent in any human architecture. It is not large by heaven's standards, but the weight of what occurs inside it reverberates through every corner of creation. It is called the Chamber of Standing Accounts. Every soul who has ever walked this earth has a corresponding account in this chamber. These accounts are not mere records. They are living documents. They grow. They accumulate. They carry compound interest in both directions. Every act of faithfulness, every season of sustained prayer, every single moment you chose to trust the Most High, when the evidence before your physical eyes gave you every rational reason to abandon that trust, made a deposit into your account. But the enemy made entries too, not because he holds rightful authority, but because agreements, words spoken in desperation, patterns inherited through bloodline, habits of fear and shame absorbed before you were old enough to choose otherwise, gave him legal standing to enter the ledger from his side. Your account has been active your entire life, and it has been in dispute. Today, that dispute has been resolved. This morning, in the early hours before the sun reached the horizon, a session was convened in the Chamber of Standing Accounts specifically concerning your ledger. I was present. I watched every line reviewed by the judge. I watched the accuser approach the bench with what he believed was an unanswerable argument. His entries were real. He laid them before the judge with the confidence of someone who has won this kind of case before. And then the judge looked at your side of the ledger. Stop. Before I tell you what the judge saw, think about your own life. Think about the real years, the ones that did not look like answered prayer from the outside, the seasons when you kept showing up at the altar anyway, kept offering the same names, kept believing that somewhere behind the silence there was a God who was listening, even when every piece of external evidence screamed that the listening had stopped. Think about the mornings you rose before anyone else to pray when your body begged for rest. Think about the nights you lay awake with someone's name on your lips because your love for them refused to release you, even when your bones were exhausted. Think about the moments when walking away from your faith would have been the easiest thing in the world, and you didn't, not because it was painless, but because something unbreakable inside you refused to let go. That is what the judge saw. That is what filled your side of the ledger. And when he examined the full account, the comparison was not close. The depth of what you have faithfully accumulated crushed every entry the enemy had made. The judge did not deliberate. This was not a difficult call. He looked at the accuser, standing at the bench, and he spoke one sentence that sent tremors through every dark corridor in the enemy's realm. The debt is paid. Release what you are holding. Beloved, today, that sentence was spoken directly over your name.
This was printed inside the envelope. A single sentence. Read every word of it. Read it twice.
Hear the accounts of two souls whose ledgers were reviewed in the same session this morning. Their stories are the mirror in which you will see your own reflection with absolute clarity. The first is a woman named Consuelo, 67 years old, 22 years spent as a home health aide in the eastern part of Los Angeles, caring for elderly people in their final chapters while her own life piled up obligations she had no margin to address. Consuelo is raising two of her grandchildren. Their mother, Consuelo's daughter, passed away 4 years ago from an illness that moved so fast there was no time to prepare for the devastation it would leave behind. Consuelo did not have time to grieve in any recognizable way. She had a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old who needed lunch packed and homework supervised and nightmares answered in the dark. She absorbed the loss and kept moving because that was what the situation demanded. What almost no one in Consuelo's life knows is this. She has not slept a full night since her daughter died. Not once. She wakes between 2 and 4 in the morning without exception and lies in the dark doing what she has always done in the dark. Praying. Speaking names. Asking for things she has nearly stopped expecting to receive. The grandchildren's school fees. Her own health, which has been asking questions lately that she's afraid to bring to a doctor because she is afraid of the answers. A son in another state who has not returned a call in 8 months. A bank account that runs out 4 days before the end of every month with a precision that feels deliberate. Consuelo is not bitter. This is perhaps the most extraordinary thing about her. She carries everything I have just described, and she is not bitter. She is exhausted, but not bitter. And in the celestial record, the absence of bitterness in a person who has fully earned the right to it is noted. It is marked. It carries enormous weight on the ledger. This morning, before Consuelo's alarm went off for the grandchildren's school day, the verdict arrived at her address.
Look at this woman. Look at her face. Look at her hands. This is what faithfulness looks like at the moment heaven intervenes. This is a woman who did not stop, who will not stop. Look at where she is praying. Look at the light. Something is entering that room today. Keep this image in your mind as you continue.
The second soul is a man named Rogelio, 73 years old. He grew up in South Texas, where the land is flat, the sky is enormous, and the people who work it develop a relationship with patience that outsiders cannot comprehend. Rogelio served in the military as a young man. He came back carrying things that were never addressed, the way men of his generation were trained to carry things, silently, privately, alone. He married. He built a life with his hands. He raised children who are now adults living lives that concern him deeply. One is trapped in a financial collapse he can see coming, but feels powerless to stop. Another has drifted from faith entirely. And this breaks something in Rogelio. Every single Sunday, he sits in church alone. 3 years ago, Rogelio entered a bureaucratic process related to his military service that should have been resolved within months. It remains unresolved. It has cost him money he did not have on documentation and filing fees, and a system designed to exhaust people until they surrender. He has not surrendered. But he has grown profoundly tired, and that tiredness has begun to erode the one thing he has always been able to rely upon, his faith that justice eventually arrives. That faith has been flickering, like a candle in a wind that never fully stops blowing. This morning, Rogelio's account was reviewed before the judge, and the verdict rendered over his name was rendered over yours in the same session, because the judge of all creation does not waste a court session. When he opens the chamber of standing accounts for one faithful soul who has endured decades of sustained difficulty, he gathers the accounts of all those whose faithfulness vibrates at the same frequency. Your faithfulness placed you in that session alongside Consuelo and Rogelio, and the verdict delivered to them today is being delivered to you. Write the words "I am present" in the comments right now, not as a courtesy gesture, as a legal act of acknowledgement before the celestial record. The angelic scribe assigned to this session is reading every comment that appears. When you write, "I am present," your name is added to the official roll of those who received the verdict today. Do it now, while the court remains in open session.
Read this one slowly. Every single word was chosen with precision. This is a prophetic declaration that was sealed inside this envelope before today. It was written for you.
Now, hear exactly how the enemy has been operating against your life, because the moment you can see the mechanism clearly is the moment it loses its power over you entirely. Everything, the accuser operates through a system called leverage. He does not possess the authority to directly prevent the blessings of the Most High from reaching you. That power does not belong to him. It never has. What he does have is the ability to weaponize existing agreements against you. Understand this clearly. He cannot break into a house. But if someone left a window unlatched, he can point to that window and argue before the judge that he was given access. The windows he points to in your case are not things you chose consciously. They are inherited. They are the accumulated patterns of your bloodline. Moments when your grandparents or great-grandparents made desperate agreements with poverty, with shame, with the belief that they were unworthy of abundance, that struggle was their permanent condition, that the goodness of God was reserved for other kinds of people. These were not evil decisions. They were the conclusions of desperate people in desperate circumstances. But the enemy recorded every single one. And he has been presenting that record before the celestial courts, generation after generation, as his justification for maintaining the embargo over your family's breakthrough. He also deploys what I call timing interference. You have felt this in your own life. You pray, you wait. The answer begins to form. An opportunity appears, a door cracks, a situation starts to move in the right direction. And then something intercepts it. An unexpected expense that consumes the resources earmarked for the opportunity. A health crisis that devours the energy needed to pursue the opening. A conflict that derails the momentum at precisely the wrong moment. Timing interference is the enemy's primary tactical weapon against people whose faith is too strong to break by direct assault. He cannot stop the blessing entirely, so he delays it until the expectation to receive it dies. A blessing that arrives in a climate of zero expectation is explained away as coincidence and never recognized for what it truly is. And then there is the deepest tool in his arsenal, the one he deploys specifically against people of mature, seasoned faith. Against people like you. He uses your own knowledge against you. He takes the theology you have studied, the decades of understanding you have built, and he corrupts it just slightly. He whispers, "You know better than to expect instant miracles." He says, "You are wise enough to know that God's timing is not human timing." He weaponizes your spiritual maturity as a muzzle on your expectation. He transforms your hard-won understanding of patience into a reason to stop expecting. He converts your acceptance of God's sovereignty into a tolerance for your own suffering. He has been turning your wisdom against your hope. And today, that strategy has been dismantled by order of the Supreme Court. It will never work against you again. There is also a fourth tool he deploys specifically against women, and I will not pass over it because it is among the most devastating arrows in his entire arsenal. He uses comparison. He watches you observe the lives of others, in your neighborhood, in your church, on the screens you carry in your pocket. And he narrates what you see. He says, "Look at what she has. Look at what her children built. Look at the ease in her life compared to the struggle in yours." He seizes the genuine joy of another person's blessing and he weaponizes it into a quiet accusation against the fairness of God. And because you are a woman of good character, you feel ashamed of the comparison, even as it unfolds. You push it away. You call it unworthy of you, and you absorb the wound it leaves without ever naming it to anyone. Not to God, not even to yourself. The comparison weapon is devastatingly effective precisely because the shame it produces makes the wound invisible. A wound you cannot name, you cannot heal, and a wound you cannot heal keeps leaking. Today, that weapon is destroyed. The verdict rendered this morning over your name is not measured against anyone else's story. It is not a slice from a limited supply of divine goodness. The Most High does not operate from scarcity. What was decreed over you this morning does not diminish a single thing decreed over Consuelo or Rogelio or anyone else in today's session. The blessing is not divided, it is multiplied. The specific, tailored, precise provision released toward your address today was designed exclusively for the contours of your life, your losses, your needs, your deepest longings. It fits you exactly, because the one who designed it has known you exactly since before you drew your first breath.
Look at this image. This is what it looked like today when the enemy presented his case against your family and the judge turned him away. Look at the expression on that figure at the gate. That is what defeat looks like in the spiritual realm. That is the accuser today. He no longer has legal standing over your life. Look at this and know it.
Hear now what happened inside the chamber of standing accounts at the moment the verdict was rendered. See this clearly in the eye of your spirit, because it concerns you directly. The judge reviewed the final tallies. He read the enemy's entries aloud. He read your entries aloud. He examined what was owed. And he examined what had been faithfully deposited over a lifetime of choosing trust over evidence. And then he reached for something the accuser was not expecting. The enemy had prepared his arguments for every scenario he had anticipated. He had built his case for every eventuality. He had not prepared for what actually happened. The judge did not debate the accuser's entries. He acknowledged them. He said, "These are real." And then he spoke one sentence that shattered the entire atmosphere of the courtroom. He said, "They are also fully satisfied." He reached into the record of the covenant, the unbreakable agreement sealed with blood before time itself began, and he produced a document the accuser had no counter for. A document declaring every inherited debt, every window left unlatched by a desperate ancestor, every word ever spoken in fear or shame or despair by anyone in your bloodline, cleared, absorbed, paid in full, not negotiated down, not partially credited, cleared in full. The enemy's briefcase of grievances became worthless paper in a single instant. His carefully assembled leverage dissolved like frost before a merciless sun. He stood before the bench holding an argument that had suddenly lost every point of contact with legal reality. And the judge raised his gavel and brought it down with a force that shook the foundations of the chamber and declared across the entirety of the celestial record: account settled, embargo lifted, inheritance released. Beloved, those 3 declarations were made over your name. Today, speak them right now wherever you are. Say them aloud or under your breath. Account settled, embargo lifted, inheritance released. These are not aspirations. They are not future goals. They are the present tense, already executed, irrevocable reality of what was decided in the highest court in all of creation this morning concerning you.
3 words were in this envelope, written specifically for this moment. 3 declarations that the court issued over your name today. Read them. Say them out loud if you can.
Now, hear what is happening in your body, because what is occurring spiritually carries a physical dimension that you may already be experiencing without having language for it. And I am going to give you that language right now, before the enemy has the chance to steal your understanding of it. Since this message began, has something shifted in the quality of the air around you? Not as metaphor, physically. An increase in warmth? A pressure releasing from your upper back or your shoulders? A tingling that begins in your hands and moves up through your arms? Has your breathing slowed and deepened without any conscious instruction to do so? Are your eyes carrying moisture that arrived without any identifiable thought that brought it? Hear me. The enemy will work immediately to offer you a rational explanation for every single one of these sensations. He will say it is the room temperature. He will say it is screen fatigue. He will say it is emotion stirred by skillful language. He will say anything other than what it actually is. So I am telling you now what it actually is, before he has the opportunity to reframe it. What you are feeling is the cellular response of a physical body to the arrival of a spiritual reality that is more dense, more substantial, more real than all the physical matter surrounding you combined. The spiritual realm does not exist somewhere beyond the clouds. It coexists with the physical world at a frequency that human senses are not ordinarily calibrated to detect. But when the boundary between the 2 realms thins, as it has done in this specific session today, the body picks up the signal. Your nervous system is not confused. It is not being deceived. It is functioning exactly as the exquisitely designed instrument it was created to be. It is responding to the arrival of a presence that carries more authority than anything else in your physical environment. It is responding to the angelic company that has been dispatched to your specific address as part of the execution of today's verdict. The warmth in your chest is not cardiovascular. It is the fire of the Holy Spirit pressing his seal onto the living document of your life, confirming what has been declared over you before the celestial court. The release in your shoulders is not muscular. It is the lifting of a weight placed there by the enemy's embargo. A weight his eviction from your account makes it impossible for him to maintain any longer. The moisture in your eyes is not sentimentality. It is the response of a soul that has been waiting for this specific confirmation for a very long time and recognizes it the instant it arrives. Place your hand on your heart right now. Press it with intention and say, aloud or in the quiet of your own spirit, I receive the confirmation. What I am feeling is real, and I receive the verdict it confirms. Now write the words I feel it in the comments. This is your testimony before the celestial scribe. This is your declaration that the Most High has touched the body he made and spoken directly to the spirit he breathed into it. Write, "I feel it right now," and seal your participation in this session.
This image was inside the envelope, and I understand now why it was placed here at this exact point in the letter. Look at where the light is coming from. Look at the hands. This is what the confirmation of heaven looks like when it lands on a physical body. If you are feeling anything in your chest right now, this image is for you. This is what is happening to you at this very moment.
Return with me to Consuelo, because what happened to her this morning after the verdict arrived at her address is the exact pattern of what is arriving at yours. Consuelo woke at the usual hour, 2:47 in the morning. The house was quiet. She lay in the dark, expecting the familiar routine of sleepless prayer. But instead, she felt something so unexpected that she sat straight up in bed. She felt an absence, the specific weight that had been sitting on her chest every single night for 4 years. The grief she had never had the luxury of experiencing fully. The loss of her daughter compressed into a permanent physical sensation that lived between her ribs was lighter, measurably lighter, not gone entirely, but lighter in a way that cannot be attributed to time or adjustment or any natural process. She sat in the dark, testing it, pressing against the space where the weight had been. And then she began to cry in a way she had not cried since the funeral. Not the controlled, carefully managed tears of a woman who cannot afford to fall apart. The deep, uncontrolled tears of a person being told, in the language of the body rather than words, that she is not alone, that her faithfulness was seen, that the debt is paid, that help is already in motion. She did not know what had shifted. She does not need to know. I know, and now you know. For Rogelio, the shift came at a different hour. Awake at 5, as always, sitting at the small table near his kitchen window with his coffee and his worn Bible. The page he opened to was not chosen deliberately. The book simply fell open to a passage he had read hundreds of times. But this morning, those words landed differently, as though they were being spoken directly into his exact situation with a specificity that a familiar passage had never before carried. He read the same 3 sentences 4 times. Each time, they struck with more weight. His hand was trembling slightly when he finally set the book down. Not from fear, from the recognition of a man who has spent enough time in the field to know the difference between coincidence and contact. He picked up his phone and stared at it for a long moment. Then he wrote a text message to his son in another state. Just 4 words. He had not communicated with his son in months. He did not know what drove him to write it in that moment. He does not need to know the mechanism. The mechanism is mine. What he knows is that within 40 minutes of sending 4 words into a silence that had lasted nearly a year, his phone rang. The conversation that followed lasted over an hour. When it ended, both of them had been crying, and something that had been locked had come open. And what Rogelio does not yet know is this: the bureaucratic process stalling for 3 years is about to move. One piece of paperwork that was permanently lost in a system with no accountability for losing it has been located this very morning. Someone in an office felt an unusual compulsion to look inside a folder they had not opened in over a year. that person does not know why they looked. They will call it routine. It was not routine. It was the execution of a court order from a court they have no knowledge of. In the days ahead, Rogelio will receive a communication he will need to read twice to believe. He will call the number to confirm it is real. And when he confirms it, he will sit quietly for a long time. And he will know, in the place that is deeper than logic and older than reason, that he was never forgotten, that the years of faith maintained in a bureaucratic desert were not wasted, that the judge of all creation reached into a filing system no celestial court should have any reason to touch, and arranged for the right person to look in the right folder on the right morning. This is what today's verdict looks like when it executes. In the seen world, it looks like coincidence. In the court's record, it looks like justice. And in the hearts of those who receive it, it looks like the face of a father who was never not watching. This is what is arriving at your address.
Read this one. This is a prophecy that was placed in this envelope specifically for someone watching right now. If it feels like it was written about your family, it was.
The enemy has one remaining argument he makes every time a verdict like today's is delivered, and I am dismantling it right now before it reaches you, because he will bring it. He always brings it at precisely this point in the proceedings. He says, "Remember the last time." He reaches into the private archives of your memory and pulls out the specific, detailed recollections of the previous times you allowed yourself to hope, the previous times you felt a surge of expectation, moved in the direction of the breakthrough, and found that the breakthrough did not arrive in the form described. He does not need a complicated argument at this stage. He simply places those memories in front of you and lets your own disappointment do his work. Hear me now. This is what I declare about those previous seasons, and you will receive this with complete clarity. Every season of apparent non-fulfillment in your journey of faith was a season of accumulation. The promise did not fail. The timing was not yet right. The account had not reached the threshold required to trigger the mandatory release. You were not being ignored. You were not being found insufficient. You were being prepared. The deposits were still being made. The accuser's leverage was being dismantled, piece by piece, through the legal processes of the celestial court. These things require time in the spiritual realm, precisely as genuine legal processes require time in the physical world. The difference between those previous seasons and today is that today the threshold was crossed. Today the account reached the level that triggered the release. Today, the judge's gavel came down not as a preliminary ruling, but as a final judgment, permanent, irrevocable, binding across all realms. The accuser wants you to examine today's verdict through the lens of every previous disappointment. He wants the accumulated weight of old pain to make you hold today's news at arm's length. Do not surrender that territory. The previous seasons did not prove the promise was empty. They proved the promise was real enough to be worth the enemy's sustained campaign to prevent it. You do not spend years mounting an aggressive legal case against something that does not exist. The enemy's persistent, relentless, costly attention to your case is itself the evidence that your inheritance is real, significant, and worth fighting for. And today, that sustained campaign has failed. Hold nothing back from this moment. Receive it with the full capacity of your faith, not the careful, protected, already wounded faith of someone who has absorbed too many disappointments. The complete faith, the original faith, the faith that was present before the disappointments accumulated, the faith that believed without reservation in the early seasons of your walk with the Most High. That faith is still inside you. It was never destroyed. It was buried under sediment. And today, I am clearing it. I am reaching through every layer of deferred hope, finding the original, unbroken faith that was placed in you at the moment of your formation, and I am restoring it to the surface. That is the sensation in your chest right now. That is the warmth moving outward from your center. That is the awakening of the faith that was always there.
Look at this image. This is the moment everything changes. This is the exact point we are at right now in this letter. The darkness is behind this image. Look at where the light is going. Look at what the light is moving toward. That is your home. That is your address. That light is already in motion.
Receive now the prophetic map of your next 72 hours. This is not a vague promise of eventual blessing. This is the operational report of what has already been set in motion by the judge's verdict this morning, and the time frame in which the first physical evidence of that motion will become visible to your natural eyes. In the hours immediately following this message, watch for the thing that breaks a pattern, a small thing perhaps, but an unmistakable one, a communication that interrupts a silence that has been running too long, a thought arriving about someone you have been praying for, carrying an unusual quality of peace rather than the familiar quality of dread, a door you have knocked on repeatedly in the past that you feel suddenly, without logical reason, drawn to knock upon one more time. The pattern break is the first external signal that the embargo has been fully lifted. The mechanisms the enemy was using to intercept what was sent toward you have been removed by court order. What was being held back is now in transit. The first arrivals will be small. Do not dismiss them because of their size. They are the advance scouts of a much larger convoy traveling directly toward your address. Between 24 and 48 hours from now, the financial dimension of today's verdict begins its visible movement. Hear this clearly so that you recognize it when it comes and name it correctly. It may arrive as a phone call from an institution with information about money you were owed that you had written off as permanently lost. It may arrive as an unexpected offer, an opportunity with unusually favorable terms. The sudden resolution of a financial dispute stalled far longer than justice should have permitted. For some of you, it will arrive through your children or grandchildren, a breakthrough in their financial situation that directly lifts a weight you have been carrying on their behalf for years. Receive whatever form it takes with full recognition of its source. This is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is a court-ordered transfer of assets from the account of the one who wrongfully detained them back to the rightful heir. That heir is you. Between 48 and 72 hours from now, Watch for the relational signal, the person whose name has lived on your lips in prayer for the longest time will make a move, a text, a call, a knock at your door, a message delivered through someone else, something that breaks the pattern of absence. It will not be the complete resolution in a single gesture. Genuine healing requires the time it requires. But it will be the beginning, the first crack of light beneath a door that has been sealed. This is what restoration looks like at its first emergence, small enough to doubt if you are not watching, significant enough to recognize immediately if you are. Pay attention. The beginning of this person's journey home was set in motion at the exact moment the judge's gavel came down this morning. And hear this about your health. Because the enemy has been waging a quiet, sustained war against your physical body for years. And today's verdict includes a specific health provision that I am carrying directly to your address. The physical symptoms you carry, the ones you have named to doctors and the ones you have named only to God, the ones with clinical labels and the ones that simply arrived without explanation and stayed. These symptoms have a spiritual dimension that your medical records cannot capture. Sustained oppression produces sustained physical consequences. The body was never designed to carry the weight that the enemy's embargo forced upon it. But today, the embargo is lifted, and the body begins the process of recovering what sustained oppression suppressed. In the days ahead, pay close attention to your body, not with anxiety, that is the old frequency, with expectation. Notice what shifts. Notice what quiets. Notice which mornings feel different from every morning that came before them. The health provision of today's verdict is real. It is specific to your body, and it is already in transit to your physical frame. Write these words in the comments right now. Write, every door opens today. This is your declaration of alignment with the verdict. When you write this, you are standing in full agreement with what was declared over your name in the celestial court this morning. You are saying to the angelic convoy carrying your provisions, I am here. I am ready. Deliver to this address. Write every door opens today, and watch what begins to move.
This was sealed with the others. It is a declaration of timing. Read it. This is not a hope. This is a court-ordered schedule.
Now I address the loneliness, not in general terms. Specifically, there is a kind of loneliness that belongs exclusively to people of deep faith who have spent decades as the intercessor for everyone around them. A loneliness that does not come from the absence of people, but from the experience of being the one who holds everyone else up, while carrying your own weight with no corresponding structure of support beneath you. You have prayed for others through their darkest nights. You have believed for breakthroughs on behalf of people who had stopped believing for themselves. You have maintained the covenant for the entire family, spoken the names, stood in the gap, carried the weight, with a faithfulness that the people you were interceding for may not have even known was happening. And in that long, costly, invisible service, you have sometimes arrived at moments of exhaustion so total that you could not identify a single person to call who would fully comprehend what you were carrying. Hear this. The Father sees that specific loneliness. not as a background detail in your story, as a central feature of it, as the evidence of a love that mirrors his own. A love that persists without the reward of reciprocal acknowledgement, that shows up without recognition, that chooses the well-being of others over the comfort of self, even when the cost is enormous. The Father does not see your loneliness as a deficit. He sees it as the signature of a particular kind of soul that he treasures above almost all others. The soul that chose service when solitude was the only reward. The soul that chose faithfulness when faithlessness would have been so much cheaper. Today, part of what has been released in this verdict is the end of that particular loneliness, not through some magical delivery of the community you deserved all along, but through the restoration of the relationships that the enemy specifically engineered to go silent. The children and grandchildren who became distant were not driven away by genuine rejection or true incompatibility. They were pulled away by a deliberate relational strategy deployed by the accuser as part of his campaign to isolate the intercessor. An isolated intercessor is a less effective one. The enemy understands this. He targeted your relationships with precision because your relationships are the structure through which your prayers gain their fullest force. The restoration of those relationships, the turning of hearts back toward home, the softening of what was hardened, the healing of what was broken, is a provision of today's verdict. Not someday, not eventually. Today. The movement has already begun. You will see the first evidence of it before 3 sunrises have passed.
Look very carefully at this woman. Look at what she is wearing. Look at what is around her. This is what the Father sees when he looks at you, not what the world sees, not what the years of struggle have made you feel like. This, look at her face. That is who you are in the court of heaven today.
Hear who you actually are, not who the years of difficulty have trained you to believe you are, not who an economic system decided you were when it calculated your value by your productivity and found you insufficient, not who the loneliness has made you feel you are in the quiet rooms of 3 in the morning. I am declaring who you actually are before the celestial record, because the enemy has constructed an entire false identity around you with the same patience and precision he applies to everything. And you have been living inside that false identity for so long that it no longer feels false. It feels like the truth. It feels like you. It is not you. Hear me declare this. You are the custodian of a covenant that has been active in your bloodline for longer than you know. Your grandmother's grandmother prayed prayers that created the conditions for the life you are living right now. Prayers answered in delayed form, taking generations to move through the spiritual architecture of your family, building the foundation that your faith stands on today, whether you recognize the foundation or not. You did not arrive at your faith by accident. You were brought to it through a lineage of people who fought for it, who bled for it, who chose it over and over in circumstances that would have justified a different choice. That lineage is your inheritance. That accumulated faithfulness is the wealth in your account. And the enemy has spent decades trying to convince you that you are poor, when the entire time you have been holding an estate whose value exceeds anything measurable in the currency of this world. You are not a person whose best years are behind them. You are not a person whose suffering was wasted. You are not a person whose prayers struck the ceiling and fell back. You are the concentrated output of generations of covenant faithfulness, the living vessel of an inheritance. The enemy was desperate to prevent you from ever claiming, standing at the exact moment when the claim becomes executable. The Most High did not bring you through everything you have survived only to deliver you to a quiet, diminished, barely managing ending. He brought you through everything you have survived, because everything you have survived made you into the specific kind of soul that is now ready, fully, completely, irreversibly ready to carry the fullness of what he is releasing today. The gray hair is not a burden. It is a crown. It is the visible record of years fully invested. The hands that ache are not liabilities. They are evidence. They are the testimony of a life completely given. The tiredness you feel is not the tiredness of someone running out of time. It is the tiredness of someone who has run so far, so hard, so faithfully, that the finish line is now within sight. Today, you cross it.
This sentence was sealed in this envelope. I believe it is a prophetic word over someone watching right now, a specific reversal, a specific promise of public restoration. Read it.
Hear now the great decree. I, Michael, Prince of the Celestial Armies, speaking by the full authority of the Most High, who created all courts in all realms, declare this over you today. I decree that the chamber of standing accounts has been permanently adjusted in your favor. The enemy's entries are canceled. The balance reads, settled in full. From this moment forward, every pathway of provision that was narrowed by his legal interference is thrown wide open. The resources assigned to your lineage by the covenant of the Almighty, resources that were intercepted, delayed, rerouted, and withheld by the accuser's embargo, are hereby released. They are in motion. They are coming to your address. They will arrive in forms you expect and forms you do not expect, and your only assignment is to receive them with open hands and a recognizing heart. I decree the total destruction of every generational agreement with scarcity made by any member of your bloodline, in any language, in any era, under any condition of desperation or fear. The words are canceled. The windows are sealed shut. The enemy's standing invitation to enter through inherited agreements has been permanently and irrevocably revoked. Your children will not inherit the patterns. Your grandchildren will not inherit the patterns. The cycle of scarcity ends here, in your generation, on your watch, by order of the judge who holds every generation in his hands. I decree that every prodigal who carries your blood is today placed under the active pursuit of the angels of restoration. The son who is lost, the daughter who is silent, the grandchild drifting further into a current, designed to carry them away from you permanently. I dispatch today the divine forces of relational recovery. I set them on the specific path of every person whose name you have been carrying in prayer. Not eventually, not someday. Today, the turning has begun. You will see the first evidence before this week is complete. I decree over your physical body a word of renewal. The systems under sustained pressure, the ones you have named to a doctor and the ones you have named only to God, I speak the decree of restoration over them now. This body is the dwelling place of the Most High, and the accuser holds no rightful deed to any part of it. His claim is canceled. His influence is expelled. The body begins today the process of recovering what the weight of the enemy's embargo suppressed. You will notice this in the days ahead. Trust what you notice. Over your mind, I speak the silencing of the anxiety that has been running as background noise for so long you have forgotten what quiet sounds like. The constant calculating, the endless rehearsing of worst-case scenarios. The surveillance of every horizon for approaching catastrophe. These are not wisdom. They are the enemy's intelligence operation running inside your own skull. They end today by order of the judge, in the space that is cleared when the noise stops. The voice of the Most High will be heard with a clarity you have not experienced in years. Listen, it is already speaking, and over your purpose, I declare the decree of full deployment. You are not made to end quietly. You are made to finish loudly. The contribution you carry inside you, the wisdom earned through decades, the love refined through suffering, the faith forged in the furnace of delayed hope, is needed by people around you who do not yet know how desperately they need it. The Father is opening the channel through which that contribution flows today. You will find it. It will find you. And when it does, you will recognize it immediately, because it will feel exactly like coming home. Receive now the signs, the specific, physical, undeniable confirmations that this verdict is already executing in your life. Receive them with the gravity they are owed. These are not decorative additions. They are the confirmed signals that the angels assigned to your case will deliver as evidence of the court's activity in your specific situation. The first sign will come through numbers. Within the next 24 hours, you will notice a number or sequence of numbers repeating in a way that is impossible to attribute to coincidence. On a receipt, on a clock, in a street address, in something you happen to be reading, the same sequence appearing 3 times or more across completely unrelated contexts. When this happens, and it will happen, press your hand to your chest, breathe, and declare aloud, the court is in session. The decree is executing. This is the angelic notation system. It is the celestial confirmation message. It is heaven communicating in the language of mathematics, because mathematics is the one language that cannot be altered or mistaken, telling you clearly, we are here, we are working, what was promised is in motion. The second sign will come while you sleep. Within the next 3 nights, you will receive a dream that is different in quality from any ordinary dream. The colors will be more vivid. The sense of presence will be more acute. And when you wake, you will carry a peace that persists through the entire morning and that cannot be explained by anything in your waking circumstances. This is not your subconscious processing daily stress. This is the angelic company visiting your spirit during the hours when your conscious mind is no longer mounting its habitual defenses. The dream may involve a person you have been praying for. It may involve a place of significance to your family. It may carry symbols that your spirit understands, even if your waking mind cannot fully translate them. Do not dismiss it. Write it down the moment you wake. It is a direct message from the court. The third sign will arrive through another person's mouth. A stranger, or someone you know only slightly, will say something to you in the next 72 hours that lands with a weight completely disproportionate to the casual nature of the exchange. A sentence that answers something you asked God in private. A comment made with no apparent awareness of its significance to you, that speaks directly into the center of what you have been carrying. This is the Most High using a human channel to deliver personal confirmation that the message you received today is real, that the one who sent it knows you specifically, knows what you are carrying specifically, and is addressing it specifically. When that third sign arrives, and it will arrive, you will know. No debate, no qualification required. You will simply know.
This is the last image in the envelope, and when I saw it this morning, I finally understood everything. Look at that door. Look at the light on the other side. Look at the field it opens onto. It goes on without limit in every direction. There are no walls. There is nothing blocking the way. The door is not partially open. It is fully open. And the light on the other side is not coming from a lamp or the sun. It has no source that can be explained. Look at it. Because what you are about to read at the end of this letter is the moment you walk through.
Before I close this session, hear this for the Letters from Archangel Michael community. Every soul who discovers these messages discovers them at the precise moment they are needed. Every soul who remains connected to this channel remains connected to the ongoing delivery of celestial court decrees that speak directly to the specific seasons they are walking through. The messages delivered through this channel are not general spiritual encouragement. They are targeted dispatches. Each one addressed to a specific kind of soul in a specific kind of season. And the soul who subscribes to this channel, who presses the notification bell so that every message arrives the moment it is released, is the soul who has declared to heaven, I am standing at the delivery point. Every decree dispatched in my frequency, do not let it pass me by. This is not a digital preference setting. In the spiritual record, it is a declaration of receptivity. It is the open window. It is the sign on the door that reads, the heir lives here. Deliver to this address. Subscribe to Letters from Archangel Michael right now. Ring the bell and share this message, this very moment, while you are still inside the atmosphere of this decree, with the specific person who appeared in your mind while I was speaking. They appeared because the Most High placed them there. They appeared because they require the same verdict you received today, and the channel by which they can receive it is you. Your act of sharing this message is itself an act of intercession. It is you extending the coverage of today's court session to include their name in the record. Do it now, before this atmosphere has passed. One final act. Before this decree is officially sealed and the session is closed, Write in the comments, right now. Write these 4 words. The gate is open. Write it with the authority of someone who was present in a heavenly court this morning and heard their name called before the judge. Write it with the certainty of someone who felt the Holy Spirit press his confirmation into their own body and knew it was real. Write it with the weight of every year invested in faithfulness, every tear that fell in the dark. Every morning you got up and prayed, when every human reason said you could stop. Write the gate is open as someone who stepped forward to claim what was declared, rather than observing from a careful, protected, arm's-length distance. Because on this side of that declaration, nothing between you and your full restoration holds any remaining legal standing. The gate is open. I, Michael, Prince of the Celestial Armies, seal this session by the authority of the one I serve. I execute the verdict of account settled, embargo lifted, inheritance released over your name, your bloodline, your body, and your home. I deploy the angels of provision to the financial dimensions of this verdict. I dispatch the forces of relational restoration to every broken connection in your household. I assign the guardians of your health to the physical provisions decreed in this session. And I make this covenant before the celestial record. I will not rest until every installment of what was decided today in the Chamber of Standing Accounts has been delivered to your door, without exception, without remainder, without delay. You are fully known. You are specifically seen. You have been faithfully held through every season designed to break you. And today, the holding becomes the harvest. The verdict is signed. The gavel has fallen. The decree is sealed. Today is your day. Amen.
At the beginning, I told you I had not looked at this photograph since this morning, and I kept that promise. A door, standing open in the middle of an empty field, no walls, no frame holding it, nothing blocking either side, just open, with light coming through from somewhere that has no origin I can explain. I have stared at this image for a long time now, and I still cannot tell you where that light is coming from. It is not the sun. It is not reflected from anything. It is simply there, on the other side of the door, waiting. I think I understand now why I was not supposed to look at it until the end. If I had seen it at the beginning, I would have tried to interpret it before I heard the letter, and I would have gotten it wrong. Having heard everything Michael said first, and now seeing this image, it means something completely different than it would have meant an hour ago. Here is what I want to say to you before you close this. You came to this video today because something drew you here. Maybe you search for these messages often. Maybe this was the first one you have ever watched. Maybe you told yourself you were just going to watch a few minutes and then stop. Whatever brought you here, you stayed. And you stayed until this photograph. And you are still here now. I do not think that is an accident. And I think somewhere in you, you do not either. The door in this image is not decorative. It is not symbolic in a vague, beautiful way. According to everything Michael said today, it is functional. It is the representation of something that was literally opened over your specific life today. Not a door for everyone who watches a video, for you, the one who is still here at the end. If something in this letter landed in a place that has been waiting for something to land there, do not bury it under the rest of today. The next letter is already coming. Subscribe to Letters from Archangel Michael. Press the notification bell, because the next letter will not wait, and neither will the window it carries. But more than that, take a breath right now and say out loud wherever you are, the gate is open. Say it like you mean it, because according to what was declared today in the highest court in all of creation, you do. I will see you at the table.